Hi, it's me again, Yani, and in today's video, we are going to configure network devices with SSH. So, the objectives of this experiment is configure basic device settings, configure the router for SSH access, configure the switch for SSH access, and SSH from the CLI on the switch. So we are proceeding to our first step. So we need a router, a switch, and a PC, and of course the cable. But this time we are going to use the packet tracer to simulate this experiment. So first we cable the network as shown in the topology. So let's try to find this router. Let's see. So there is no 4221, but we can use the 4331 as an alternative, and let's rename it as R1. Then the switch, we need a switch which is the 2960, and rename it as S1. And lastly, a PC from End Devices, which is here, and we will rename it as PCA. There. So the required devices are here, but we need to cable according to the topology given. So this is using the copper straight through. We will connect the fast Ethernet to the fast Ethernet 6 of the switch. There. And the fast Ethernet 5 to the 4 gigabit Ethernet port 1 for the router. And now we will start our procedure. So let's initiate and reload the router. By doing that, it is to connect it using a console port to our PC, but we can use to configure the router and the switch to their CLI tab here in Packet Tracer. So let's configure the router now. So here's the window. So let's start. So first, let's enter the privilege exec mode, and let's so enter the configuration mode by typing config-t or conf-t or configuration terminal. So now we are here in configuration terminal. We can disable DNS lookup by typing no IP domain dash lookup. There, we already disabled the DNS lookup, and now let's assign the privilege exec encrypted password, which is the class. So by doing that, we will type enable secret, then the password itself, which is the class, and we set it already the privilege executive mode. And now let's configure our console passwords and VTY password. So let's try the console first. Line con0, then type the password, type password, and then the password that we're going to use, which is Cisco. Press enter and then type login, and now the password is set, so we can type exit. So now let's assign the VTY password. For this one, we will type line VTY 015, and then the same as the console. We'll type the password, then Cisco, then login, and then exit. Now the password is set. We will encrypt these passwords now. The plain text passwords rather, by typing service password encryption, and all the password now are already encrypted. And let's proceed by creating the banner message of the day. So banner MOTT, and for our message we will type unauthorized access is prohibited. There. So let's try to let's try to this again. There. So now let's proceed to configuring our gigabit Ethernet port by looking up at the addressing table. So we will enter interface gigabit Ethernet 0/0/1, and now we will set the IP address, which is we will type the command IP address, then the IP address itself, which is 192.168.1.1, and then the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Since it is a /24 prefix, then we will press enter, and we will turn this port on, so no shutdown. And now the port state is changed to up. So now we can exit the tab or the configuration here. So we'll type exit, then exit. So now, since we named it as a router, let's try to configure it again, and we will type it hostname R1 there. So it's proper, so let's try to save it now. So copy, run, start, then press enter. Now so the configuration is saved. So let's try to exit, type Cisco. And now we're back to the user exec mode. So let's going back to the PC. As told here, we configure the default gateway and the PC, which is based on the addressing table. So let's try. So the IP address is 192.168.1.3 and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 and the default gateway is 192.168.1.1. So this is the configuration we need for our PCA. So we'll close that one for now. Next is let's verify the network for PCA. So let's try. Let's ping the default gateway by the command prompt and then typing and the default gateway IP address. And as we can see, the ping has successfully replies. So the connection, or we configured the router and the PC correctly. So next one is configure our router for SSH access. So let's go to the router again and enter the privilege exec mode again. And there, so we typed the password earlier, so now we are here. So let's go to configuration terminal. Now we are here in global configuration mode. We configure the device name already. And now let's configure the domain for the device. So since there is no required domain, so let's try to name one like IP domain name cisco.com. So we will try that one, and now we will configure the encryption key method. Let's type crypto key generate RSA. So now we ask how many bits, so let's type 1024. So now encrypto key the encryption key method is created. So now let's set a username and a password. So for this one, we will type username, which is admin based on the instruction. For the password, let's type secret, then the password itself, which is admin pass with combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. So now we created a username and the password. So now we should enable the SSH and the SSH on the VTY lines. So we will type line the type line VTY050, and we will type transport input. Let's enable also the telnet and SSH. Wait, let's try to enable SSH only. There, so we already configured the transport input into SSH. So to change the login method, we will type login, then local, since we created a local username and password. And now we will type exit. So now we are going back to the global configuration mode, and let's type exit. And now we will save the configuration. And now the configuration is saved. So we will type exit again. And now we are back to the user exec mode. And let's try to access the SSH in our PCE. So let's establish a command. So let's type SSH -L, the username, and the IP address of the router, which is 192.168.1.1. And now we are prompted the password, and let's type the password for the corresponding username. So it's invalid. Let's try again. So unauthorized access is prohibited. So now we are greeted with R1, not the C drive, but R1. So we are accessed with the SSH connection. So let's try to enter privilege exec mode. So now we can see we can enter our privilege exec mode. So let's exit now. So now the established SSH are now ended. So let's try to configuring our switch. So let's go to our switch, to our CLI interface. There. So let's type enable, then configuration terminal, and now the same method as we did earlier. So let's disable the DNS lookup, so no IP domain lookup, and let's assign our privilege executive encrypted password and the console and VTY passwords. So first, this one, enable secret class, and then let's assign the console and VTY passwords. Same command as the router. So password Cisco, log in, and then exit. So let's configure the VTY password 0615. Same procedure with the console. It will require login and then exit the interface. So now we are back to the configuration mode. Let's encrypt all the plain text password by typing service password encryption. There. And let's create a banner that says that unauthorized. Let's make it in a sentence. Unauthorized access is prohibited. So there, these are the message. And we will configure our VLAN 1 by interface VLAN 1. So now we will go back to our addressing table, which is we will set the IP address to 192.168.1.11 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Then enter. Then let's change the state to up by typing no shutdown or no shut. So now the state is changed to up and we can exit the interface. To put the IP default gateway, so we'll type IP default gateway, and we will type the default gateway, which is 192.168.1.1, and we can save the configuration by typing copy and start, enter, and now we already saved the configuration. So let's proceed to our next for our SSH activity. So now we enter the global config mode again. I type conft, and now we change the name of the switch, which is into S1, and we will create a domain name for the device, which is, let's say, ciscoswitch.com. So let's try switch.com. Wait, I forgot the command. So IP domain name, sorry for about that, type ciscoswitch.com, and now we will configure the encryption key method for the switch by typing crypto key generate RSA, and we will type 1024 again. Now let's configure a local database username. We'll type username admin, and the password is the same as we configured earlier. So this is the password. Now we created the local database username. Let's enable the telnet and SSH for this one. So we will type line VTY. So we will enter the VTY mode to enable those SSH and telnet. So we'll type transport input, then we will type telnet, then SSH. So let's try again. Transport input telnet and SSH. If I'm correct. Let's try one by one. And let's enable the SSH here also. There. So we enable the telnet and the SSH. And let's type login local to change the login method. And then we will type exit. So now we configure our switch. So we will type exit and we will save the configuration. So copy, run, start, press enter, and now the configuration is saved. So we'll type exit. So we will type the Cisco, and now we'll back to the user exec mode. Let's try to access if we can enable the SSH for the switch. So SSH -L admin, then the IP address of the switch, which is 192.168.1.11. So we are prompted with password. We will type the password we set. So now we are entered to the user exec mode of the switch. So we can configure our switch here. So let's exit for now. So now we are close the SSH connection with the switch. Okay, so let's access SSH from the CLI of the switch. So let's try. So let's enable it. So now we are here with the switch, and we will do the SSH to R1 from S1. So we will do the same procedure we did on the command prompt. So SSH /L, so the username admin and the IP address, which is 168.1.1. Now we are prompted with the password, so we will type the password. And as we can see, we are able to access our switch. So we can return to S1 without closing the SSH session to R1 by pressing Ctrl Shift 6 and press X. So now we are back to S1. To return to the session, press enter and then enter again. So now we are back to the R1. So we will type exit to close the connection. So now we are back to the switch, but the connection is already ended, or the SSH session is already ended. So for the reflection question, how would you provide multiple users, each with their own username, access to network? Of course, by creating their multiple username and password, but with their privilege, by typing username, then the privilege level and its password. So hope you like this video and see you again next time.